Hi, welcome back. My name is Paul Fritz, and today we're going to add a game character to our scene and start getting the movement worked out. What we're going to work on is something like this right here. We're going to create a game where we have a character, and it's going to be a wave type game. So our character will spawn into our scene that we've created, and there are supposed to be some enemies that spawn, but apparently they didn't like this spawn point. So they're going to spawn. We'll go find them. They're going to come at us. We have these spiders. We're going to attack them as they try to attack us. And we'll have whole waves of them. We also have a second character that has decided not to show up this time. And you can see we'll have our HUD. We'll be able to run around, our animation, and we'll take damage and then end up dying if we don't make it through the wave. So this will be a wave game. We have enemies constantly coming at us and chasing us down. So we're going to go ahead and work on that right now. Go ahead and pull this off of here. But what we need to do first is we need to get everything set up. Okay, and in order to do that, the first thing we want to do is we're going to make a new game scene. New game actually in Unreal Engine. So we're just going to go ahead and launch whatever version of Unreal Engine you have. I happen to be using 4.26.0. And with the editor, we're going to go ahead and create a new project. So we're going to select Games. We're going to select Next. We're going to select Blank because we're going to end up writing all of the blueprints and everything that we want for this. So we're not going to use any of these others. We're going to go ahead and click Next. And then you need to put it in location and give it a name. And I'm just going to call this my wave game for right now. We can always change it later. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and create that project. Oh, before I do that, I want to point out here, I'm not bringing in any starter content. This is going to be a completely empty blank setup. And the reason is as we import our other assets, those assets will come in with them. So we're going to migrate a level from one of our landscapes that we've already created. So I'm going to go ahead and no starter content, leave everything else default, create the project. And I'm going to go ahead and pause for a minute, and then when that comes up, we'll move forward. Okay, so we're back now. We have our new wave game scene here. And this is the blank level that it opens up with. We don't really need this, but what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to, with it already set up, I'm going to minimize this for a minute. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring up the level that I want to move my map from. In this case, this is just a terrain. We've built this terrain out, added some grass, although it's only in this area right here. Have a building in it, our trees, so similar to what you saw already. And now it's real simple. What we're going to do is we're going to find where our level is. This is level 2. I'm going to go ahead and right click on it, and right here where it says Asset Actions, we're going to migrate this to our new project. Not export, we're going to migrate it. So I'm going to select Migrate. Now, there's a few things I want to make sure that I don't take with me in this. I want to make sure that I don't have any characters that are going to go in it. And I did have one that I used as a demonstration in this level to kind of be able to run around, see what the terrain looks like. I didn't use the basic mannequin. I replaced it. So I'm going to go ahead and right here, this Paragon Lieutenant Bellica. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that. And that should remove everything from there. I also, well, I need the starter content, but if you take a look at the starter content, the only thing that's going to transfer is this right here, this textures and this T macro variation, because that's what I used in the landscapes. Nothing else from the starter content was used. I also don't need the third-person blueprints and these third-person blueprint games, because we're going to create our own blueprints. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that, and I'm going to say OK. This is going to ask you where you want to put it. And this is going to go into my new wave game I have a few of these. Hard to keep track of which one it is, but it's this one right here. And I'm going to go ahead and select that. Select my content folder. It's important. Make sure you put it in your content folder. And I'm going to select that folder. Now, this is going to take a minute or two, so I'm going to pause again. And then once I have this back up, we'll get started. Okay. We should have successfully migrated our scene now. And give me just a second here, make sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to. I'm going to go ahead and close that. All right. So now that we have it migrated, right here, we're going to go ahead and close this level. We don't need it anymore, and it's just going to take up memory. I don't need that affecting my game. So now let's go ahead and bring up the wave game. So right here, this is an untitled scene, but down here you see my level 2. I'm going to go ahead and, before I open it, I'm going to rename this. And I'm going to be super creative and name it level 1 from level 2. You can call yours whatever you want, but I'm just keeping order. Keeping order from 1 to whatever, just in case we make more levels with this. All right, so now that's been done. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it in its own folder. So I'm going to say new folder, and I'm going to call this my levels folder. I'm going to select both of these and drag and drop them into the levels folder. Say move here. Okay. So now we've got that folder created, and we're going to go ahead and open it. And there we have it. Everything's moved in. Just as it was before. Okay, so now we got our level in here. The next thing we need to do is we need to track down a character to use. Now there's several places you can go. There's turbosquid.com to find some characters. But you need animation along with them. So if you go to TurboSquid, make sure that you're finding some that actually have animation. But what we want to do is, for ease of simplicity, the ones in the marketplace that are free under the free games content, Epic has several characters in here that they have given away free. And the one I was using in that demo was this one right here, Lieutenant Bellica, but there are quite a few other characters in here. Since this is going to be a kind of a third-person shooting type game, if you do select one of these other characters and you're going to follow along with this tutorial, make sure that it is a character that actually has some sort of a projectile weapon like a gun. The ones with bows, because they're not actually going to get into the whole instantiating arrows and things like that, it wouldn't quite be the same, but those would work as well. But you certainly want something that has a projectile weapon. All right, so again, I'm going to go ahead and select the same character I was using before, which is this one right here. And again, make sure they have animation. This one has 143 animations. Now this one does not have a crouching animation, so I'm going to show you the crouching, how to put in crouching controls, but this one won't crouch because there's no crouching animation. It'll technically crouch, but it won't actually have an animation that makes it look like it's crouching. All right, and then once you have figured out which character you want, make sure you add it to your marketplace, and then right here, you add it to your cart, you download it, go to your cart, it'll go into your project, and then it'll be inside your library. You can also load it from here. I'm going to click on Add to Project. I'm going to go down to my Wave game, which is this one right here. And I'm going to add it to that project. And this may take a minute or two. So again, I'm going to go ahead and pause, and then I'll be back once it's downloaded. Okay, so now the character is downloaded and into our project. Just to double check, I'm going to go into my content folder. This is the folder that character comes into. We could make a folder called characters to put it into, But I'm just going to leave it in here because it takes quite a while for it to transfer if we do that. And I'm not going to do that during this tutorial. All right, so now we've got this character. So let's go ahead and get things set up for us to be able to get our character ready. The first thing we're going to want to do is set up our controls. And the way we're going to do that is first we have to tell Unreal Engine what our controls are. And we're going to come up here to Edit. We're going to go to Project Settings right here. Okay. And the first thing we're going to do in Project Settings is so that every time we open our project up, we don't have that annoying empty scene. We're going to go here and under Maps and Modes, under Project, Maps and Modes. And right here where it says Template Default, we're going to change that to Level 1. And then we're also going to change this to Level 1 as well. So our Game Default Map and our Editor Startup Map are both the same. And now we're going to go down here underneath all of these under Engine. There's one called Input. Select the Input one. And what we need to do is we need to tell Unreal Engine what our inputs are. And we're going to use both action mappings and axis mappings. Action mappings are like pushing buttons, and axis mapping is like movement along a Y or X direction. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get those set up right now. And let me get my notes up. There we go. Okay, so first we're going to start with our action mappings. Okay. So if you hit the little plus arrow, the little plus right here, you notice an arrow pops up right here. I'm going to hit that down arrow. Now I have my first action mapping. And if I hit the down arrow next to it, there is an initial control here. We actually need two of these, so we're going to hit this plus button right next to it. So now we have two. They both say none. And this first new action mapping. So we're going to go ahead and say fire weapon. This is going to be our fire weapon control. And this is going to be the left mouse button on our mouse. So we're going to go into our mouse and then find the left mouse button right there. We're also going to set this up so that it works with our controllers like this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'll talk through a little bit about this because it's not so obvious sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the down button for that. Find my gamepad. So this is going to be a gamepad. And we're going to make the right trigger our right trigger right here. Right trigger is going to be our fire button for the gamepad. All right. So we've got those two done. So we need another one now. So we're going to go back all the way up here to the top. We're going to click on it again. And now we need one for jump. Okay. Because this is another button push action. Okay. So we're going to make jump. And again, we're going to set it up for both the keyboard and for the controller. So the first one, our jump, is usually the space bar. So I'm going to hit the arrow here. And sometimes it's faster to type in a search for it. So like space bar. And then this one, gamepad. And this is going to be the face button. So that's what I was talking about. When we think about these controllers, these right here are our face buttons. Okay, this is the bottom button. And then there's the left and right button. And of course our top button. So, and then our controllers, so our axis controllers are here for being able to move the character around. All right, so what we're going to do is, for this one, it's going to be gamepad face button bottom. So gamepad face button bottom is going to be our jump button for this one. All right, now we need one more, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus button, add a second one to this because we need two of those again. And this is going to be crouch. Okay, and the crouch for the keyboard is going to be C. Now you can hit C right here, but if you do that, you're going to end up with every word that has a C in it. So in this case, it's probably quicker just to go to your keyboard and hit the C button there. And then for this one, this is going to be the gamepad face button, and we're going to make this the right button. So gamepad face button right. There we go. And that's it for the action mappings. Now we need to go down to the axis mappings. And these are the ones that are going to handle our movements. And also our being able to look around up and down. Because these will read the axis positions of our controllers. All right, so the first one is going to be move forward. So we're going to select that, and I'm going to type in move forward. All right. And it automatically gives us 1, but for this we're going to need 3. Because even though we're saying move forward, this is actually going to handle moving forward and backwards. So it is moving along that same axis. So we're going to go ahead and hit the plus button twice, because I need 2 buttons for the keyboard for W and S, and then I need 1 controller for the axis controller for the thumbstick on the gamepad. So the first one right here, we're going to go ahead and go to our keyboard, scroll down to W for forward, and select W. This one, we're going to go to keyboard, scroll down to S for backwards, and then this one is going to be our gamepad left. Is gamepad left thumbstick Y axis. Right there. Now, moving forward is in the positive direction. Moving backwards is the negative scale direction, so we want to change 1 to a -1. And then the rest of that is okay. Now we're going to go ahead and add another axis mapping, and this is going to be for our left and right, but we're going to just call this move right. Right? And so move right also is going to require 3 controllers, because left and right is going to be worked into this. So for this one, our move right and left is the A key is left and the D key is right. So I'm going to go ahead and on my keyboard I'm going to find the A key and then the D key for my keyboard. And then this one is going to be our gamepad thumb axis, or left thumb axis, X axis. Gamepad left thumbstick, X axis. And this is going to, again, we need to, this is going to move our left and right, so it's going to read whatever direction we push on this automatically. But for A, left is the negative direction. D is the positive direction. So we need to change A to a -1. Okay? So now we've got the ability to move forward and backwards. So while we're in here, we're going to go ahead and also put in some of the controls for our ability to aim. And we're going to go ahead and add one for that. So we're going to do, these are going to have to be separate because one's going to be a mouse and one's going to be the thumbstick. So we're going to have to call those out separately. We can't make them all together. So this one's going to be called thumbstick. And it'll be thumbstick aim up. Okay. And for the thumbstick aim up, we're going to make these the right on our gamepad. These are going to be our gamepad right thumbstick, and to aim up is going to be our Y axis. Thumbstick aim down, or I'm sorry. So thumbstick aim up is both up and down, okay? Because again, as you push up or pull down on the thumbstick, it'll read that direction for us and it'll automatically make it so it's up and down. Now, the next one is going to be our thumbstick aim right. So it's actually going to be aim right and left. But to keep the names a little bit shorter and easier to find in our blueprints, we're going to just go ahead and use right and up. Okay, so this is going to be our gamepad right thumbstick, and it should be the x-axis. Yes, x-axis. All right, so now we're going to hit plus button there. Now we're going to go ahead and translate this to the mice, or our mouse. So we're going to do a mouse aim up. Okay, and this is going to be our mouse Y. And then, and for the Y, for the mouse Y, this is actually going to be a negative number. Okay, what that's going to do is that's going to invert it so that when you push the forward, when you move the mouse forward, it causes you to look down. When you pull it back, it causes you to look up. Okay, just the way you would normally aim. I think I got that right. Anyway, we'll find out for sure. If you don't like the way it works, you can always come in here, take the negative out, and it'll flip it. All right, so now we're also going to go ahead and do a mouse aim right. Okay, and this is going to be the mouse X button. Mouse X axis. All right, and that one is going to be left positive. Make sure I got all my negatives and positives. We're good. Okay, so that's all we need to do. Now, one thing I do want to point out here, we've set all this up, and these are kind of the typical controls that you're going to find in a game. You can come in here and add some additional stuff, swapping out weapons and all that stuff, so you can get this input list quite long. And once you have everything pretty much set up, that's kind of the way it normally is. There's kind of a standard in the way to change things out on the keyboard and the way you move things on a gamepad. So you can always, once you have it all set up, you can come in here and you can hit the export button, and you'll be able to export it anywhere, and you can save it somewhere on your computer, and then put it into a project. So once you do that, and then you wanted to import one, you can just come over here to import, click on the import button, and you'll be able to find where you have that file. I would recommend just copying it and pasting it into your project, and then find it in your project and just hit the import button. And then you should be good to go. You have it all ready to go, and it just automatically comes in here. All right, so now we've got all of that set up. Now let's go ahead and get our character set up. So we're going to come back to our content folder here, and right down here, let's go ahead and add another folder, and we're going to call this one Blueprints. And this is where we're going to end up putting all of our blueprints. And then we're going to open that up. I'm going to right click on this, and we're going to add a new folder, and we're going to call this one Pawns. Okay, and the pawns are going to be our player. Now you can have more than one player. You can have it so you can swap them out, but we're just going to go ahead and concentrate on just one player for right now. So inside our pawns, we're going to go ahead and we're going to right click. We're going to go to Blueprint Class right here, and we want a character. So a character is a pawn, and a pawn is an actor. Okay, so the actor is kind of the top thing, and everything kind of falls in under the actor class. Okay, and then a character allows a character to includes the ability to walk around. So it already's got that built into it for us. So we're going to go ahead and select character, and we're going to go ahead and name this one BP underscore, and I'm going to name it the name of my character, which is LT Bellica, I believe it is. Okay, and then LT Bellica. So there we go. We got that open. We got her created. So what we need to do first is we need to actually set her up. Okay, and where did it go? Did I not open it? Oh, there it is. It hid behind some other windows. It does that a lot to me. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and now once we take a look at it with it open, you'll see that unlike a lot of the other blueprints, this one already has a capsule collider. It has an arrow component, which indicates the direction of movement. It has a mesh already assigned to it, which there's nothing in there right now. And then there's this character movement control, which is inherited. If you click on that, over here in the details section, you'll see that there's all these different settings that you can come into, and you can make adjustments. You can change jump velocity. You can change gravity effect on them, how high they can step, how fast they can walk. So all of the controls in here are things that you can come in and make changes, which will affect the way your character is going to behave in the game. So let's go ahead and get our character in here. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead over here in mesh. Once we select our mesh up here, down here where it says skeletal mesh, none right now. We're going to hit that down arrow, and you're going to find the one that says skeletal mesh for your character. Now there's some different choices in here, and mine actually came with several different different styles to her. So you could pick one of these other ones. I'm just going to pick the basic one, but some of these are kind of cool. There's a biohazard one, a drone, I'm not sure what that is, an Everfrost, which was that white skeletal mesh, and you know, that one might be interesting to play around with. So no, that wasn't the one I wanted. Yeah, that one's more like a zombie style, which actually might kind of work for this game. Let's see here. There's a heavy armor polar strike. I think that was the one I was thinking of. There we go. Haven't worked with that one before, so let's go ahead and lower it down. Now you'll notice with this character, the gun is located at the feet. We're going to have to reallocate where the gun is assigned, and we'll go over that later. But for right now, we're just going to get the basic movements and everything set up. Okay, we'll get into where to be able to make those changes to get her gun up into her arms and start working with our animation in some of the later videos. All right, so now we've got our character in there, but we notice that character is 90 degrees off. So I'm going to hit E on my keyboard, and for those of you that are new, up here is the move button, the rotate button, and the scale button, and it's W-E-R to change these. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate 90 degrees. There we go. Now she's facing in the right direction. The next thing we need to do is we need to be able to give our player the way to a way to see or control our character, or see it rather, not control. So we're going to put a camera on here, but first what we want to do is I'm going to select the upper level for the lieutenant here for the blueprint. I'm going to come in here to add component, and I'm going to type in spring for spring arm. We're going to assign a spring arm first. Okay, and then the next thing we need is after the spring arm is there, with it selected on the spring arm, I'm going to go ahead and type in camera and add a regular, just basic camera. All right, and I'm going to rename this one so I know which character this camera belongs to, just in case for future purposes if I need to come in and make some changes, or I have multiple cameras in there and I'm trying to do something specific with the camera, I can find it a little bit easier. All right, so now I'm going to select the spring arm again right here, and with the spring arm selected, I'm going to make a few changes. I want to put my target arm length out a little bit further behind my character, kind of like what we saw in that scene. So I'm going to type in 450 right here at my camera, target arm length. Okay, so with the spring arm selected, camera, target arm length, I'm going to set that at 450. And then I'm also going to put in an offset at the Y. So I'm going to put in a 75 for the offset. What that did is that moved the camera slightly to the right of my character. So now it's right back here. Instead of being right behind her, it's slightly to the right, so I can see over or around her. And I'm also going to change my Z position of my camera, so my up position of the camera. And I'm going to make that about, I'm going to make it 90 right now. These are things that you can come back in and you can play around with to adjust it to give your game a certain feel. Now, if you're going to make a top-down game, you could also set this spring arm so it's 90 degrees above your character and put your camera up high enough so that now you're basically looking down. It's like a 3D top-down style game. So this camera, depending on how you set it up, is going to determine the style of game that you're making. You can even use this same character if you wanted to, and I've seen it done, and put the camera so that the camera is right in the viewpoint area of the face, and that way when you look down, you look around, you have a full body, and you're using a 3D character, but you're actually doing a first-person style game. All right, so with that, the other thing I want to do is in our camera settings, we want to use pawn control rotation. And this will allow you to rotate the camera around your player when you're standing still. So as you move your mouse or you move your controller, you can kind of pan around and you can kind of move it around your character and change the camera position so that it's not stuck right behind your character the entire time. You may like that, and this is the button you can come in here and you would uncheck it if you didn't want to have that ability to rotate the camera around. Now it's not going to work right away because we still have to get all of our controls set up, but that'll get us there eventually. Now go ahead and hit compile and save. We want to make sure it's all saved. We can come back into our level, pull out our character, and just kind of get a feel. Right here is the camera, and you can see that I've got a slight offset behind my character at 90 and at 75. Now, because we activated that little button, when we get our look around, our aim left and right to work, our camera will actually rotate around, so this won't necessarily be the exact visual that you'll have with it. It'll be the initial one. And we'll find that out when we get all that set up. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and make it so that our character can actually be moved. So I'm going to go ahead and select my character right here for right now and just hit delete. Okay. Now let's go to our blueprints for our character, and we're going to go to the event graph. And this is where we're going to start doing some blueprinting and get our character able to move. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start our input axis for our forward movement. I'm going to go ahead and I'm leaving these here for right now. We may eventually delete them. I'm not sure that I'm ever actually going to use them. Well, we will use the event begin play. We might end up coming back to those. All right, so I'm just going to go off to the right a little bit, leave those kind of sit there out of our viewport. And now the first thing we need to do is get our movement forward and backwards set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click right here and let's type in move forward. And we want the one that is the event axis right here. So axis events. It's got the big arrow next to it. This is a function, the one with a little F. We don't want that one right now. Probably use that. We're going to use that a little bit, but not right now. All right, so now we've got this, and we need to go ahead and make it so that we can add movement to our character. So we can right-click out here, and I'm going to give myself a little bit of space. Right-click out over here, and type in add movement input. All right, so we have it. Add movement input. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug this in right there. Next thing we want is we want to get our character, get our player character. So let's go ahead and right click right here, type in get player, and one of our choices should be character right here. We want the one with the green F next to it. Okay, now we've got that. The next thing we need to do is we need to also get our forward vector for our player. So we're going to go ahead and right click. We're going to get actor forward, and it should come up with actor forward vector. You want to know what direction forward is. So now we're going to go ahead and start plugging some of the things in. We're going to plug this into target because this is who we want to move. We're going to plug this into target down here because that's the forward vector of the person or character that we want to know. And this return value is actually going to be a coordinate system, and we're going to plug this right into our world direction for our coordinate system. And then we also need to know what axis is being pushed, and that's this right here. We're going to go ahead and plug that in right there. I am going to grab these, pull them out this way a little bit, give myself a little room. If I double click on the green line right here, I can add in these little nodes, and I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. Pull these up. Do the same thing over here. Now if you hover over it, you see I get the little move button there. If I hover right over the little node, it turns into crosshairs. So this right here would be making it so you could actually add additional nodes to it or other directions, but we don't want to do that, so make sure you're just using the move one. All right, so this is done for our get movement for right now. I'm going to highlight all those. I'm going to hit C, and this is going to be our move forward and backwards. Okay, this is a comment, and in order to make comments, you just highlight it like we just did, hit C on the keyboard. You can change the color of this background by clicking on this right here and pick any color in the rainbow you like. I am liking gray, so I'm going to leave it that way for right now. We may come back and color code them based on what each of these sections are supposed to do for us. So I'm going to go ahead and we can compile it now, but we're going to keep moving forward because we still need to be able to move left and right. So now we're going to go ahead and right click, and I'm going to type in move right. And we want again, the arrow one right there, the axis event. So I want to move right. Now this time, I'm going to go ahead and just click on the character. I'm going to come down here, hover my mouse down in this area, hit Control W, and that's going to duplicate it for me right there. Now we can't use this one because we actually want the right vector, and then we could copy this one if we wanted to. So we could select that and hit Control W because we need another add movement input. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in here. I'm going to right click, and we want to get actor right, oops, the spell right, get actor right vector. Okay, same thing, we're going to plug them in the same way. Right there. This is the output for our direction. And now I'm going to go ahead and connect this into my scale value. Clean this up a little bit. All right, highlight it all. Hit C on the keyboard again, and the comment is going to be move right, right, and left. Okay. So now we've got that happening. Okay, now we can just grab this big box and be able to move things around, kind of line them up where we want. Okay, so we got movement, forward, backwards, left, and right. So let's go ahead and make it so that our character can jump and can crouch, and then we'll also work on aim as well. And so let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and right click right here, and I want jump. So I'm just going to type in jump, find my event on jumped, action events right down here. It's an action event right here. This is the one I want. Okay, and this, remember, was an action input. An action input, we have buttons now, pressed and released. So we're going to go ahead and right click here, and we want the jump, and we want the jump function right there. And then we also want the stop jumping. So stop jump, and there we go, stop jumping. We're gonna, when we press the button, we want to jump. When we release the button, we want to stop jumping. All right. And now we still need to know who is jumping, so we're going to select our character there, come down here, hit Control W, and plug this into both of these because it's our character who is jumping. Select those, hit C, type in jump. All right, so now we've got jump. We're going to do the same thing for crouch, real similar. I'm going to right click, we're going to type in crouch. And it's an action event. There's our crouch. Again, we're going to right click here. We're going to crouch. So we want the crouch function, which is this one right there. And we also want the uncrouch. That's the technical term for this. Uncrouch. There we go. And again, buttons pressed, we crouch. Released, we uncrouch. And it is our character. So click on it, Control W, who is doing the crouching, or not crouching. Highlight him, C, type in crouch. Okay. Now we've got our ability to move, jump, and crouch. So let's go ahead and press on a little bit. And we're not going to do the weapons one yet because there's some functions that we're going to have to write for that. But we can go ahead and do some things to get our character to actually move and rotate around for our input axis. So let's go ahead and set that up. We're going to go ahead, I'm going to compile this real quick and save so we don't lose our progress. And right over here, I'm going to go ahead and right click, and I want thumbstick. And we want thumbstick aim right. We'll work on that one first. Okay. And then we want to right click, and this one is going to be add controller view input. Add controller. Is it yaw? Oh, I'm sorry, yaw. Yaw input. Can't even read my own writing. Okay, so we want controller yaw input. And now what we're going to go ahead and do is get everything all hooked up. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out here. Again, it's going to be our player, so we're going to go ahead and get player character. So I'm just going to go ahead and select on that one right there. Hit Control W out here. Get player controller. Character. Wow, I put these really far apart. I don't know why I did that. It makes it hard to see it. Okay, now we've got our character. That's our target right here, but things are a little bit different in this one, right? We got this value right here, this float value. We have our axis output here. So what we need to do is we're going to create a variable that allows us to control our lookup rate. So how fast our character is actually going to look. And this is kind of the first variable that we've made so far. So what we're going to do is right down here, we're going to just click to add a variable. And we're going to call this one our base look up rate, right? And it is currently a Boolean. We don't want it to be a Boolean. It needs to be a float. So we're going to change this by hitting that down arrow right here on the little words. And we're going to select float. And now we have to compile it in order to get something done, right? It says, please compile this blueprint. So I'm going to compile it. Now I have the ability to actually put some numbers in here. And we're going to use 45 as our rate. Okay, enter. All right, so now we've got that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move this down a little bit. We're going to go ahead and grab this. So if you come over here, you can click on it and drag it into the scene. And then when you let go of the mouse, you have a choice of get or set. This is going to be a get. We want to know what our base lookup rate is. Okay. I don't know why I put that. I'm going to put that right there. So we're going to get our base lookup rate. Now we're going to go ahead and use get world delta seconds to be able to get some time. So get world delta seconds. There we go. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to go ahead and move these down just a little bit. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need a way to multiply these together, and then we're going to hook it into our value right there. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to right click, and then we're just going to, and actually what we're going to do instead of that, you know what, we're going to go ahead and do it this way first time, and then we'll do it a different way the next time. So if we hold that and hold the shift button, we get the multiply. So we're going to multiply float by a float right there, and we've got this one to put in, we've got this one to put in, but I need another pin because we also need to multiply that times our axis value up here. So right here, I can just click add pin. I'll put this one in up here. I'll put this one right there. I'll put this one right there. And then the output is going to go here. And let's clean this up a little bit so it doesn't look so rough. Something like that. There we go. All right, so this is it for right now. We're going to go ahead and select this. And we're going to go ahead and comment this. And this is going to be our thumbstick and mouse aim left and right. Actually, this is just thumbstick. I don't know why I put that. So this is thumbstick, aim, left, and right. Okay, so thumbstick, aim, left, and right. Now we need to go ahead and do the same thing for our aim up and down. So let's go ahead and get our, and this is going to be thumbstick aim up and down. So we're going to go ahead and right click. We need to get thumbstick. And we want the thumbstick aim up. Okay. And that's going to be the wrong one because we actually wanted the axis input. So let's try that again. So I want the axis input right there. There we go. That's the right one. All right, so now we're basically going to go through the same process that we just did. We're going to, but this is going to be pitch. So instead of yaw, we're going to do pitch. Okay, so we're going to right click and add controller, and we want the pitch input. Okay, so now we got our pitch input right there. Everything else right here is going to be the same. Yes, all this is going to be the same. So I'm just going to highlight that. We'll come down here, hit Control W, and now all we got to do is kind of plug some things in. Start character. Plug that in there. clean this node up a little bit right here. All right, so that is our comment that, and that is our aim up and down thumbstick. All right, so thumbstick aim up and down. Now let's do the same thing for our mouse. Our mouse inputs are going to be a little bit simpler. So what we need is So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do our aim left and right. So right click down here and we want mouse aim, and it should be aim right. We're going to start with that one first. Okay, and then we're going to come up here and we're going to select this right here, hit Control W down here. Okay, plug this in. Okay, target itself, that should be okay. We could put our character on there if we wanted to. And now we're also going to go ahead and do the same thing for our aim up and down, and this is going to be our pitch. So we're going to go ahead and mouse aim, and we want up. Select the pitch, Control W, plug this in, highlight these together, hit C for the comment, and these will be our mouse aim inputs. Alright, so now we've got our mouse aim inputs, and we also have everything else we need so far. There are other things. We're not going to do the weapons right now because, like I said, we got some functions we need to do. So we're going to go ahead and compile that and save it. The next thing we need to do in order to make all this work is go back to our blueprints. So back here in content, blueprints folder, right where our pawns are, I'm going to right click and we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this one game mode, because we need to get our game mode up and running in order for us to be able to put our character into it. So with a game mode folder, we're going to right click, we're going to go back to blueprint class, and we're going to pick game mode base right here. And we're going to call this BP underscore game mode, so we know which one it is. Okay, so with that, we're going to come over here to our Windows, and we're going to look for world settings. It should be right there, and when it comes open, it should probably pop in over here somewhere. Now my windows are probably a little bit different than yours because I moved my world outliner from over here to over here, and I got some things open that aren't normally open in yours by default. So we have details and world settings. So with the world settings selected right up here at the top where it says game mode override, it says none right now. Click on that and select our BP game mode. And then with the down arrow right there, hit that down arrow, and at the very top it says default pawn. Let's find our character we just made. Mine is BP Lieutenant Bellica. And now with those selected, let's go ahead and hit play. There's my character. Now you notice I can move my mouse around pretty easily. I got my aim left and right, and when I run, I can move forward, I can move backwards, I can move left, I can move right, backwards, I can jump. Okay, so all of that is working with my keyboard and mouse, and you can see I have free look right here. Okay. Okay, so now what we want to do is let's go ahead and double check to make sure that it's working with our controller. If you have one, if you set it up that way, that's great. If you don't, it's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and test mine real quick. So my left thumbstick moves my character, and then I have my free look around. So I can look up, can aim down, So as we get the animation up and running, this will look a lot better. Right now though, we have the basics done. So our character can run, can jump, and can move. Okay, hit escape to get out of that. File, make sure we save everything, save all. And that is it for this video. The next video, we'll go ahead and start working on getting some of the animation applied to our character so it looks a little bit more natural. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and give me a like if you like this video.